persistent dewdrop, linger a little while. Your colors in the sunlight would make a monarch smile. What need have I for treasures, diamonds or gold? The fairest of all pleasures are here to behold. Hello there, dearest kinsmen, pebbles and laughing brooks, you timid little beetles that hide in private nooks. God made us of his gladness, come then and sing, to cure the world of sadness, so ring, bluebell ring. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, bluebell ring. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, bluebell ring.
Morning. Our weekly readings are taken from Rays of the One Light, commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by J. Donald Walters, Swami Kriyananda. This is week 37. Truth invites, it never commands. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Free will is a basic principle of life. God never coerces. He invites us to live in such a way that we find fulfillment in ourselves. If we refuse to live rightly, Paramhansa Yogananda taught, God simply says, I will wait. We have eternity to live. In that eternity, we live as we choose, in a self-created darkness, a darkness as intense and as long-lasting as we choose, or in the infinite light, the true self, which is God. Jesus Christ in the Beatitudes offered a beautiful example of God's way of inviting mankind to seek perfection, not by commanding, but by offering his human children the incentive they need to choose the right of their own volition. Blessed are the poor in spirit, Jesus said, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In each of the Beatitudes, Jesus explains the blessing attendant upon observing it. The divine way, similarly, for each of us is not to do violence to our own natures. Spirituality must be attained naturally. It can never be attained by force. The Bhagavad Gita says in the 3rd chapter, even the wise behave in accordance with nature as it is manifested in them. Of what avail, then, is suppression? The scripture goes on, however, to explain that this doesn't mean that we should surrender to the dictates of our lower nature. Rather, it emphasizes our need to aspire to the heights, but each of us in accordance with his own nature, and not an imitation of anyone else's, offering ourselves up for purification by divine grace. Desire, whatever form it takes, so the Bhagavad Gita explains, should be resisted, even if only mentally. Attachment and repulsion to sense objects, both of these are universally rooted. No one should accept their influence, for verily they are man's enemies. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. How is everybody? Yay! Well, thank you, everyone, for coming. It's our joy to be here. We'll both be sharing this morning because we realize we're leaving on pilgrimage on Saturday. So this is our last Sunday here for 3 weeks. So we both wanted to just be with all of you here. We have 22 pilgrims going on this trip to Spain and Italy, and we will really appreciate your prayers along the way, and we will bring all of you with us. So anyway, let's begin with a reading from Yogananda's book of prayer demands and poems. This is called Whispers from Eternity. I want to use my own will, but guide it ever, Father, toward the golden paradise of all fulfillment. For I would be infinity's smiling child, confident of being imprisoned no longer behind bars of fruitless desire and withered hopes. I would break the shameful cords of lethargy that have presumed to hold me and step fearlessly into freedom. Released, I now blaze my way through forests of every limitation and delusion. Oh, my little vain ego may strut proudly, saying, "Behold my glory, worship me." But I will look through its transparent form and behold thine unimaginable beauty, clothed in the subtle form of the whole universe. The silence-tuned hearing of my soul will ignore that tiny, boasting masquerader, my little self impersonating thee, and will listen rapturously to the wind-borne, fragrant music of thine own matchless voice, whispering across the ages, I am he. Beautiful reminder of who we really are. We're not this little ego that we can be so proud of. Hello, hello. Am I back? See, I'm back. Thank you, Tom. I don't know how these work. They work like magic. I'll just remember to tug if I fade out. It's kind of a good reminder for us as devotees. Every time we forget, we had a beautiful initiation last night into Kriya Yoga, the highest technique of meditation that we do. And Yogananda reminded us, every time you start to feel a little punky, every time you start to maybe lose it a little bit, do some kriyas, meditate. So this is a good reminder to always meditate when things tend to go a little bit off. They always find their way. Well, this topic this morning of truth invites, it never commands. It's just really a precious, I think precious may be the word, just a precious and so sweet topic, especially having it come on the heels of us celebrating Swami Kriyananda's discipleship to his guru Yogananda. That was this past Wednesday on September 12th in 1948, 70 years ago. Swami Kriyananda said to Yogananda, your disciple. And from that moment, his life was changed, and as a result, all of us, we wouldn't be here if he had not said those words, I want to be your disciple. There is, through Swami Kriyananda's life, he said he had 2 goals in life, and one is to know God, and the second to share him with all of us. And that is certainly what he has done with all. Many years ago, it was brought to Swami Kriyananda's attention that at Sunday service at Ananda Village, that attendance was getting a little bit low. And instead of making a rule, okay, well, if you live at Ananda Village, you have to go to Sunday service, Swami Kriyananda just said, okay, well, then I'll just start doing Sunday service and monetize it. And this is the way of Swami Kriyananda. This is the way of our masters. This is the way of the spiritual path, that they don't push from below. But what do? They pull from above. They aspire. They pull from that way, you know. So never a true master won't push that way. But instead, they'll invite us into the joy of what they're wanting to share with us. There's a story, many of you may know it, many, many years ago, a Hollywood celebrity went to visit Paramahansa Yogananda at Mother Center at Mount Washington. And he so much wanted to be part of Yogananda's work. And as he arrived there, he could see all nuns and monks around. And he was a celebrity. He was a man of the world. And he says to Yogananda, looking around, how could I be a part of this? Can I be a part of this? And Yogananda just said, no worries, of course you can be a part of this. And then he said, but sir, you know, I'm not just a vegetarian, I eat meat, you know. And Yogananda just said, no worries, no problem. And the celebrity said, but you know, I go to parties and I drink and I smoke. And Yogananda said, you may continue to do that, no problem. And the celebrity was getting really confused. How could he be telling me it's okay? And he goes, I better ask him one more question. When I'm in the company of women, I enjoy their company very much. And then Yogananda says, no problem, you may continue to do so. And I was really confused. He goes, how could you tell me that I can continue to do so? And I want to get the line right. Yogananda said, yes, you may continue, but I warn you that if you follow what I tell you to do, I do not promise that you won't lose interest in these other things. And there's another beautiful story of Yogananda. There was a really sincere practitioner, again, of Kriya Yoga, very faithful and regular. And it was told that, the story was told that as he did his Kriya practice, he had his mala in one hand, and then in the other hand, he had his bottle of whiskey. And he would just kind of alternate, you know. But he was a real sincere devotee, you know, and he did his Kriyas faithfully. And Yogananda could have said, nope, you know, you have to give this habit up before you could be initiated into Kriya Yoga, but he didn't do that. He invited him what? To taste what Kriya Yoga can bring. And that's what the masters tell us. If we practice our meditation, they bring us a joy. They bring us an experience that all these outward things, they can't give us. All those outward things are transitory. They don't last. Well, it turned out that the man eventually ended up giving his habit of drinking up completely because it outweighed the joy of what he was experiencing in his meditation was so much deeper, so much more richer than that. Then he let go of that. And then he was able to just practice fully. And again, this is, the masters always invite, the true masters. They never coerce, they never force. And the invitation is today, the reminder, they're inviting us to come on the spiritual path. They're inviting us to offer ourselves completely, however it may look, you know, and it's going to look different for each one of us, you know, and that's the beauty of it. We have something we call on this path the 7 S's. When I first started at Ananda, it used to be only 3, and then it's been growing. But these 7 S's can help us to accept the invitation from our masters. The first one, as you could guess, is what? It's sadhana. It's our spiritual practices, because it helps us to connect again to who we are, to that true inner joy, right? And then out of that, what comes out of that? Then the desire to share. Just like Swami Kriyananda, he wanted to know God, he wanted to share that. Same thing that happens in meditation. We find this joy, we don't want to just keep to ourselves, we want to share it. So the next S is natural. It's you could call it the low-hanging fruit. It's service. You know, it comes naturally. The opportunity is all around us. And what happens? We feel so good when we do that, right? The service. And then the study, because we want to go deeper in these teachings. We want to feel the wisdom, but the divine wisdom of what's really happening on the path. Not just a bunch of facts and numbers, but why is this really happening to me? That deeper understanding. Then comes satsang. Satsang is spiritual fellowship. And we can think that it's all about the chit-chatty, you know, which is fun, the talking and all that. But what is it really on a deeper level? It's sharing that vibration. So it's even being together, what? In meditation, in service, in that study, in those deeper aspects of who we are, you know, not so much in just the lower, I'm going like that, the ego, you know, and the ego, it can be fun. We have personalities, we have things we like, I was remembering Swami Kriyananda, because I grew up in New York City and I have a fondness for a certain beverage, Swami Kriyananda would tease me a lot, and he goes, say that word that you like so much to drink, and it was coffee, you know, and he just would like, Coffee. But you know, it's they're reminding us beneath this personalities, beneath these tendencies, these habits, we can share that satsang together, that deep vibration. What are the other S's? I know I'm missing at least two. Sleep? No? Sorry, I just... okay. Yes, okay. Yes, well, I'm going to go to that one. So support is so important, really. Part of what happens also when we celebrate the lives of these different masters, when we have a celebration here, come if you can, because what happens during those times, say the veil's thin, we can feel for their presence more deeply. But what always happens in those evenings, we have an opportunity to make an offering from our heart in the form of a flower, of our love, our devotion. But we also get to support the work. And that's so important because then we want the next person to be able to receive the blessings that we have been given. And it just, a friend used to say, one hand washes the other, or pay it forward, or, you know, that kind of concept. And then there are two more, not sleep, but there is singing. Yay. Swami Kriyananda said, if you want to know me, sing my music. I don't think he was talking about his personality, what he liked to drink or anything like that. If you want to know my consciousness, if you want to know those deeper aspects, if you want to know that level of who he was, of who we all are, that connection that we all have, he would say, sick, right? And then the last one, which we've added, I think, recently is smile. Yeah, and Yogananda always, it's kind of corny, but he said, if you don't feel like smiling and you're a little grumpy, he goes, just go in front of a mirror and push the, and you can't help but smile at that point. But all these aspects, these 7 S's, and I'm sure there's more, we'll have a few more added on, they all help us to remember to receive that invitation from the masters. They're just here to bless us. They're here to show us the way. They're not here to show us how great they are, but they're here to show us how great we can be and to remind us of that invitation. So I think because I'm fading in and out, maybe that's the 8th S. So God bless you all on your journey, on our journey together to self-realization.
Good morning, everybody. We were talking upstairs before service, and we were talking about wisdom and truth invites, it never commands. And one of the light bearers, who will remain unnamed, said when he was living in the Palo Alto community, he would, one of the other, he's a teacher of high school or junior high there. He's quite a mischievous person. He's a light bearer and stuff. Every time the spiritual directors would come by and he'd be in discourse, he'd say, and so the Bhagavad Gita says. So we just turn, but it's actually kind of fun because if we can just turn our minds, whatever the prompting, towards the deeper teachings. We did have Kriya initiation last night. Kriya is the most sacred technique that these masters have brought. And in fact, Autobiography of a Yogi, it quotes, it is the greatest technique for self-realization, for awakening in spirit, ever given to mankind, by self-effort, ever given to mankind throughout all time. It's a tremendously powerful and blessed technique. What's interesting, there are 4 practices culminating in the practice of Kriya itself. What's interesting about these teachings is, just like the reading today, there are spiritual practices where you get underneath, spiritual awakening happens because the energy rises from the base of the spine up to the point between the eyebrows. And all of yogic practice is designed to get that energy to rise. Because as that energy rises, we become free. But many of them are designed to get underneath that energy and try and drive it up. And Yogananda said this is a really bad idea. This is a really scary thing. Because if the chakras, if the energy centers aren't open, then you can end up in real trouble energetically. And every so often we run into somebody who's had a Kundalini experience, a yogic experience where they weren't prepared for it. He said, what we do is we we magnetize right here at the point between the eyebrows, the point of divine consciousness, the seat of divine consciousness. And we magnetize that because wherever the energy is, that's where things go. That's where magnetism is. That's where things move. And so even with Kriya Yoga, it's all the practices of Kriya, it's always about magnetizing up here, lifting the energy so that as we grow spiritually, those centers naturally open and the energy naturally rises. It's been a long period of time since we've taken the kind of trip that we're going to take now with these great souls on pilgrimage. The chants today were a little bit about our pilgrimage. Saint Teresa of Avila is of our lineage. They say that Yogananda's foremost woman disciples, Sister Gangamata, was actually a reincarnation of Teresa of Avila. And we will be going there. We'll be there next week at this time. And then we'll spend a bunch of time with St. Francis and St. Clare and St. Catherine, Siena. So the Italian chanting was kind of getting everything primed. We do really request. Pilgrimage isn't about vacation. Pilgrimage is about transformation and self-offering. And so while it sounds very romantic and it will be lovely in many, many ways, it's also a time of great opening and putting ourselves in the presence of God. And so we do deeply request your support and your prayers along the way. And commensurate with that, because there's always great blessings that come. We will, as Gangamata said, we will carry each one of you. You know, you are our dearest friends and our spiritual family. And we feel, you know, we live inside each other back and forth. I don't really have much more to say. I would like to do one little thing and invite your participation in this. Could we have the new Kriya bonds come up? It takes a long time to reach the point where you actually get to Kriya initiation. This is 3 of the 4 that were initiated newly last night. And it takes a lot of spiritual hunger for a long time. And then it takes about a year of actual focused preparation, at least a year, to reach the point where you're ready for Kriya Yoga. And then it's quite a commitment because you take a promise, a vow to practice daily these things basically for the rest of your life. But what we get from it is, if we can stay steadfast, is this enormous transformation of consciousness. And so we'd like to just welcome all of you into this spiritual family of Kriya bonds. It's a global family of people trying to just hold each other and hold themselves up at this highest level and continue to grow in the light. We'd like to ask all of you to stand. And chanting Om 3 times, let's send them all of our love and support and blessings for this enormous step that they've taken. Shanti. And congratulations and thank you all. Okay. God calls us to come and put down our playthings, our outer playthings, and live in the joy of each moment. And I think we'll close with a beautiful song that reminds us of this. So.
I've heard your flute.